The Omikata cult from Future Diary is not just creepy for shock value. The show actually depicts how a real victim gets trapped and broken by the people who were supposed to protect her. Tsubaki Kasugano is the sixth diary holder in the survival game. She's nearly blind and has spent most of her life inside the cult's temple. Her parents originally founded the Omikata religion as a legitimate organization, and Tsubaki served as their sacred eye. Followers believed she had the power to see the future, so she became the center of everything the cult did. The cult's second in command, a man named Funatsu, wanted control. When Tsubaki's parents decided to dissolve the cult, Funatsu killed them with a car bomb. With them gone, he took over and turned the whole organization into something horrific. Funatsu told the followers that they needed to cleanse themselves of their sins. The method he chose was gang raping Tsubaki. This wasn't a one-time thing. She was kept imprisoned in that temple and assaulted repeatedly for years. The only thing keeping her sane during all of this was a small handball her mother had given her. She would hold on to it during the attacks as her one connection to something good. Then she lost it. During one of the assaults, the ball rolled away from her. Because her eyesight is so bad, she couldn't see where it went. That was the moment she completely broke. The one thing she had left was gone. What makes her situation even more twisted is her diary itself. The clairvoyance diary doesn't show her the future directly. It shows her what her followers see and report. So Tsubaki's power is entirely dependent on the same people who were abusing her. She literally cannot function without them. After everything she went through, Tsubaki's goal in the survival game is simple. She wants to become God so she can destroy the entire world. Not rule it, destroy it. She wants everything gone because of what was done to her. There's a small moment near her death that hits hard. Yuki finds the handball she lost and throws it to her right before she dies. Tsubaki catches it and starts crying. She says it's unfair that it came back to her only now, when it's too late to matter. The series does show an alternate outcome though. In the third world timeline, the car bomb meant for her parents gets discovered before it goes off. Funatsu is arrested, her parents survive, and Tsubaki never has to go through any of it. She gets to live a normal life in that version of events. Berserk has no shortage of monsters, but Mozgus is a different kind of horror because he genuinely thinks he's the good guy. Every act of torture, every execution, every drop of blood is done in the name of saving souls, and he means it. Mozgus is the most feared inquisitor of the Holy See, the religious authority in Berserk's world. The first thing you notice about him is his face. It's completely flat and smooth, almost like a mask. That's because he's been slamming his face into the stone floor during prayer, 1,000 times every morning and every night for 10 years straight. To him, this is devotion. To everyone else, it's the first sign that something is very wrong with this man. He travels with a group of disciples who handle his torture duties. All of them are physically deformed, and Mozgus saved each one by reading them scripture when they were outcasts. He took people society rejected and gave them purpose. That purpose just happens to be inflicting pain on others. His personal symbol is 4 breaking wheels, which is a medieval torture device where victims were strapped down and had their bones shattered. The twisted part is, Mozgus isn't lying when he says he's doing this for their salvation. He completely believes that torture purifies the soul. When he burns heretics or breaks their bodies, he thinks he's giving them a gift. There's a scene where a man tells Mozgus that God will punish him for what he's done. Mozgus responds by smashing his massive scripture book into the man's skull. His reasoning is that only the Holy See can speak for God. Anyone else claiming to know God's will is a heretic. During the conviction arc, Mozgus transforms into something inhuman. But here's the detail that matters. He's not a true apostle. He becomes what's called a pseudo-apostle when the egg of the perfect world, a special Behelit apostle, transforms him and his disciples. Mozgus sees his new angelic form as proof that God has chosen him. He sprouts wings and his body becomes armored. His weak point turns out to be a small metal plate with the Holy See insignia on it, right where he always kept his scripture book pressed against his chest. Shiki isn't really about vampires. It's about what happens when two groups of people are both trying to survive. And survival means the other side has to die. By the end, you can't tell who the monsters are anymore. The story starts when the Kirishiki family moves into an abandoned European-style mansion overlooking Sotoba, a small isolated village in rural Japan. Shortly after they arrive, people start dying. The local doctor, Toshio Ozaki, initially thinks it's some kind of epidemic. The victims all share similar symptoms: severe anemia, bite marks, and a rapid decline before death. But then some of the dead start coming back. The villagers call them Okiagari, meaning those who rise. They're also called Shiki, which translates to corpse demons. These are vampires, though the series treats them more like a tragic species than classic movie monsters. Tsunako Kirishiki is the one behind everything. She looks like a 13-year-old girl who dresses in gothic Lolita fashion, but she's actually decades old. Her eyes are hollow and pit-like, making her unsettling even when she's being polite. Her origin story is dark. She was attacked and transformed by a Western visitor when she was young. Her own family couldn't bring themselves to kill her, so they locked her in a storage closet and brought her victims to feed on for years until she eventually escaped. Tsunako believes she's been forsaken by God. She chose Sotoba specifically because she read and loved the writings of Seishin Muroi, the local temple priest. The Shiki have strict rules they have to follow. Sunlight kills them. Even filtered light through windows causes burns. They cannot enter enter a home unless someone inside invites them in. They can't eat human food. If they try, their bodies reject it and they vomit. Religious symbols and consecrated ground repel them. The only ways to kill them are staking through the heart or decapitation. The real horror of Shiki comes from what happens to people after they turn. Not everyone who dies from a Shiki attack rises again. Some do, some don't, and there's no way to predict it. This leads to tragedy. A woman named Nao rises as a Shiki and kills her entire family, fully expecting they'll come back so they can be together forever. None of them rise. She becomes a murderer who destroyed everything she loved for nothing. Toru is another example. He was a kind, normal young man in life. After he's turned, he's forced to attack his best friend Natsuno just to survive. The series shows Shiki who hate what they've become but have no choice except to feed or die permanently. The turning point comes when Dr. Ozaki decides to prove vampires exist. His method is brutal. His own wife Kyoko has risen as a Shiki, and he performs medical experiments on her, testing what kills them, what hurts them, documenting everything while she's still conscious. Once he has proof, he rallies the surviving villagers. What follows is a counter-massacre. The humans hunt down every Shiki they can find, men, women, children, it doesn't matter. They stake them, drag them into sunlight, burn their hiding places. The villagers become just as vicious as the creatures they're fighting. The entire village burns to the ground in the final conflict. Tsunako survives. She escapes with Seishin, who has become a Jinru by this point. Jinru are a variant that can walk in daylight and are nearly impossible to kill. Tatsumi, one of the Kirishiki family's servants, was a Jinru from the start. Natsuno also becomes one after his death. Shiki never tells you who to root for. Both sides commit atrocities. Both sides are trying to survive. That's what makes it disturbing. Blood Sea pulls off one of the cruelest twists in anime. For most of the series, you're watching a normal shrine maiden named Saya fight monsters and live her daily life with friends and family. Then you find out none of it was real. The entire village, every single person in it, was part of an elaborate experiment designed to break her. The town itself was literally constructed as a fake reality. Every building, every street, every location Saya visits was built specifically for this experiment. The people she thinks are her friends and classmates are paid actors. Her father, the shrine priest she lives with, is an actor. Everyone she cares about is performing a role. The mastermind behind all of this is Fumito Nanahara. Throughout the series, he appears as a kind cafe owner who makes Saya breakfast and treats her warmly. He gives her gimaov, which are marshmallow sweets, almost every day. Those treats are drugged. They're mixed with substances that keep Saya docile and prevent her real memories from surfacing. Whenever her true self starts to emerge, Fumito uses drugs and hypnosis to push her back into the false personality. Fumito is the head of an organization called Tower, which oversees the relationship between humans and creatures called Elder Barons. Here's the real twist about Saya. She's not human. She's actually an Elder Baron herself. But unlike the monsters she fights, Saya swore an oath that she would never kill humans. Fumito captured her and created this entire experiment as a wager. He wanted to see if he could use false memories and manipulation to change her fundamental nature and break that oath. The Elder Barons that attack the village throughout the series aren't random. Fumito controls them using Saya's own blood. Every monster attack, every death she witnesses is orchestrated. The villagers playing their roles know they might die. Some were promised they would survive. Others were considered expendable from the start. When the experiment reaches its conclusion, Fumito ends it violently. He unleashes massive rabbit-like Elder Barons on the village. They tear through the streets and systematically massacre every actor who participated. Anyone who tries to run is gunned down by private soldiers. Almost no one survives. One person who does make it out is Yuka, one of Saya's fake friends. She survives because she was promised a reward for her participation. She would become the governor of Tokyo. She shows up again in the sequel movie, Blood Sea: The Last Dark, where Fumito's true motivations become clearer. Everything he did wasn't just about experimentation. He's obsessively in love with Saya. The entire village, the fake life, the controlled monster attacks, all of it was his twisted form of devotion. The supporting cast in Blood Sea was intentionally written to be unlikable. The creators wanted the audience to find them annoying or hateful, so when the massacre happens, viewers would have complicated feelings about watching them die. The voice actors themselves weren't told about the twist ending until they actually recorded those final episodes. Blood Sea turns a standard monster hunting anime into something much darker. The real horror isn't the Elder Barons. It's realizing that everything you watched was a lie designed to destroy one person. Most anime villains want to take over the world or destroy it. The Major just wants war, not victory, not conquest, just war itself, forever. That's what makes Millennium one of the most unsettling villain organizations in anime. Millennium was created during World War II under Hitler's Special Order No. 666. The goal was to develop artificial vampires that could be used as weapons for Nazi Germany. The project was led by a man known only as the Major, a former SS first lieutenant. In 1944, a young Walter Dornes and Alucard attacked their research facility in Poland and wiped out most of their forces. But the Major and key members of his team escaped to South America, where they spent the next 50 years rebuilding. The name Millennium comes from Hitler's promise of a 1,000-year Reich. But here's the thing, the Major doesn't actually care about Nazi ideology. He openly mocks the idea idea of building a Fourth Reich. He's not interested in politics or racial purity or any of that. He just wants carnage. The Nazi imagery is a tool, not a belief system. The Major's philosophy is laid out in his famous I Love War speech, and it's one of the most disturbing villain monologues in anime. He declares that he loves every single aspect of war. He loves winning. He loves losing. He loves being killed. He loves killing. He states directly that he has no goals. War isn't a means to an end for him. War is the end. He wants it to go on forever. What makes the Major even stranger is his relationship with humanity. When Berlin was falling at the end of World War II, the doctor offered to turn him into a vampire. The Major refused. He said that becoming a vampire would mean giving up his humanity, his willpower, his soul. Instead, he chose to become a cyborg. His entire body is mechanical now, but he considers himself technically still human because he kept his mind intact. He achieved immortality without sacrificing what he believes makes him who he is. The Major's army is called the Last Battalion. It consists of around 1,000 Waffen SS volunteers who were transformed into artificial vampires using research conducted by the doctor. These aren't natural vampires like Alucard. They're manufactured soldiers created specifically for Millennium's war. When Millennium finally attacks London, they don't hold back. They jam all British military communications before the invasion begins. V-1 rockets hit the city. Soldiers descend from massive zeppelins and start massacring everyone they find. Civilians, police, it doesn't matter. The streets fill with blood. One of the biggest twists in Hellsing Ultimate is Walter. He's been Integra Hellsing's butler for decades, a loyal servant who fought alongside Alucard back in 1944. But it turns out he's been a double agent for Millennium the entire time. He eventually joins them openly and is transformed into a younger, more powerful version of himself to fight Alucard. Millennium also has some bizarre members. Schrödinger is a catboy who serves as the Major's messenger. His ability is that he can exist everywhere and nowhere at once, based on the Schrödinger's cat thought experiment. He's cheerful and playful, which makes him creepier given who he works for. The organization exists purely to create destruction. They have no interest in ruling anything. They just want to watch everything burn while they're part of the fire. The cult in 20th Century Boys is disturbing for a reason most anime cults aren't. Everything about it, the symbols, the prophecies, the world-ending plans, was stolen from a group of kids just playing pretend. And then someone turned those games into reality. When Kenji Endo and his friends were children, they had a secret base where they hung out. They wrote something called the Book of Prophecy, which was basically their fantasy about how evil villains would try to destroy the world and how they would stop them. It was just kids being kids, making up stories about being heroes. They even designed a symbol for their group, a hand with an eye in the palm. Their friend Ocho came up with that design. Years later, a cult emerges led by a mysterious figure called Friend, who always wears a mask. The cult uses that exact same symbol. Their prophecies about the future match what the kids wrote decades ago. Someone had snuck into their secret base, read their book, and decided to use it as an actual blueprint for world domination. The identity of Friend is one of the biggest mysteries in the series. There are actually two different people who wear the mask throughout the story. The first friend is Fukube, a boy who was largely ignored by his classmates growing up. He was jealous of how popular Kenji was. Fukube learned magic tricks and used them to fake supernatural powers, making people believe Friend had real abilities. The second friend is Katsumata, and his backstory is even darker. When they were kids, Kenji falsely accused him of stealing money from a candy shop. The other children decided to punish him by pretending he didn't exist. They told him, "Today you died." And from that point on, everyone acted like he wasn't there. He was socially erased. That kind of trauma shaped everything he became. The cult's actions get progressively worse as the series goes on. They release biological weapons and kill massive numbers of people. They frame Kenji and his friends as the terrorists responsible for the attacks. When Friend gains enough power, he takes control of the Japanese government. The calendar literally gets reset to year 1 to mark the beginning of Friend's rule. At one point, Friend is publicly assassinated, but then he rises from the dead, which convinces even more people that he has divine power. In reality, this is just when Katsumata takes over the role from Fukube. The series was clearly inspired by real events. The Aum Shinrikyo cult carried out the 1995 Tokyo subway sarin gas attack in Japan. 20th Century Boys takes that same fear of a doomsday cult with weapons and political ambitions and builds an entire story around it. If you like this video, turn on the notification bell and subscribe for more.